The Sex Sutras of Ninth Limb Yoga. Sutra. A concise or pithy observation, general truth, or scientific principle. Sex. Verb. To determine the sex of, or to present something in a more interesting or lively way, or to arouse or attempt to arouse someone sexually. Sex. Noun. A division based on reproductive role, or a sexual activity, particularly intercourse. The Sex Sutras are 51 general principles which logically determine the sex of human nature in a divisive and interesting way. Please enjoy. Chapter 1. Intro. Arash is 1 in a billion. He has 4 girlfriends and a magnetic effect that can't go unnoticed. No other man on earth does what Arash does with women. Once you register how special his situation is, then we can begin. Whatever we admire in another, we admire in ourselves. And so it is with everything we see in them. This is called the Law of Correspondence. Magnetism creates an attraction or a repulsion, which is really just the same force expressed in different directions. The true sexual seduction uses communication to control the genetic magnetism that we call sexual attraction. Just like gravity, which can pull you down and make your exertion more difficult, but then at the same time can be used to slingshot you out of the solar system, the female energy can sap your vigor and drain your masculinity, or you can use it to amplify your forward movement into life, going beyond what you could have done alone. Just like gravity, attraction is invisible, and only its effect is noticed. Your seduction is invisible, but its effect is noticed. Your seduction is an invisible element of your penetrating life. And the invisible element of Arash Dibazar is not his eye contact or his voice tone. It's not his words or his gestures. It's not his social proof either. His invisible element is a frequency of being that is very difficult to clothe in words. Zepar, the demon of lust which Arash made a pact with, or AD5E, Arash Dibazar fifth element, as he calls it. Whatever it is, this is a book about my story of a weekend with Arash Dibazar. February 2018 in Hollywood, California. Remember, the map is not the territory, and the menu is not the meal. Sutra 1. The experience of a sunset is within you. Commentary. That place within you where you experience the sunset has meaning for you, and you notice it as your mind is looking at the meaning within you. Not a word, not a picture, but a meaning and a feeling. So point your mind towards the meanings and the feelings within you that are aroused by the writings in this book. This book is only my perspective of one of the marvels of this world, who is called Arash Dibazar. 1,000 blessings to you on your journey through the Sex Sutras of Ninth Limb Yoga. Yogi Chris, PhD. Chapter 2. The Meeting. Friday night at the conference room inside 1600 Vine Street Apartments, Arash gave his presentation to us 15 guys. He said, Sutra 2, to get the woman, you must get the woman. He said this while pointing to his mind. His wordplay fused for me the ideas of owning her with understanding her, meaning understanding her equals owning her. It's simple language algebra. To the deepest roots of her nervous system and her genetic behavior system, the more you understand how to consciously create an unconscious effect in her physical machine, the more you own the physical machine. She wants this, but only by the correct man who she chooses. Sutra 2 set the tone for the weekend of Mindset Mastery, which was a lecture series put on by Vince Kelvin and Arash that weekend. During the weekend, I recorded several hours of my one-on-one time with Arash, and I've edited those audio files to provide you with many valuable audio tracks that are irreproducible outside of their organic genesis. For example, next I'll give you some sutra from the Mindset Mastery event spoken by Arash. But their application, not their words, is the key to their power. The true answer as to how to apply these sutras is to meet him. Hear how he says these sutra. Feel his tone. See his eyes and his body gestures. And as he speaks these truths, realize that as you read sutra, every word matters, as when you hear sutra. Sutra 3. Stop resisting anything to raise your yin. Sutra 4. Seduction is female because it's non-direct. Sutra 5. Yin is full transparency. Yang is full glow. Sutra 6. Every communication she is saying, come closer or go away. You may want to pause and contemplate the sutra or continue. Chapter 3. Friday night at the W. 11 p.m., downstairs at the bar outside, we all sat around Arash at the table. He bantered with the waitress in front of us. Then, after she left, he said to us, "To the woman outside who's looking at us right now, who are we? Whatever storyline you came up with is not going to be that attractive for the hot girl. So, we cut our chances just by that. We don't make it impossible, we just make it difficult because the first question they ask is, who is that? And the answer to that has to be someone who she would want to either, and I'm quoting Mystery here, join their tribe or at least visit their tribe. Who are those guys? The answer has to be seductive." His answer to the question, who are these guys, for our group of guys in that moment, is given in Sex Sutra Track 1. It's amazing how attractive he made us all sound in his story, just that he quickly made up. And I hope you listen to that track. He then said about the waitress, quote, "She must upload in her mind that your character is challenging and not hitting on her, ever. It's almost offensive, but I'm just not interested in her. It's a different vibe. Break rapport on purpose at some point, not in the beginning. In sales, if I say something that they don't approve of, then I show disapproval, and they're not used to that vibe. If she became rude to me, then when she comes back, on the outside I turn cold. The seduction is invisible to me. You gotta be playing the story with every woman you meet. Where are we in this Arabian Nights story? And the object of your desire must be worth it. The best seductions give you the most resistance." Sutra 7. The best seductions give you the most resistance. Commentary. Power is overcoming resistance, literally and physically. True seduction is always co-voluntary, and your impending seduction will feel much better if you had to overcome at least a little bit of resistance, because instinctually you will likely think that she will be a challenge for the next guy too, which is a promising quality for a potential mate. And even if you're looking at her in that way, if you're not, your biology is. That's why you got with her. Then he said, "That's why you have to be talking to multiple women or your emotions would get all fucked up." Commentary. The force of many women on your emotions is like the pull of gravity by planets on their star. If a planet or planets are imbalanced in pulling their sun, then their sun will start to wobble. She is the planet in your system, and your seduction is the gravity between you and her. But unlike planets and gravity, her presence and your brilliant seduction of her is within the control of your communication. Manage the distance and the velocity of the women in your life so that you're a stable emotional center for them all. Your women must feel your stability, because stability is a masculine quality, a solar quality. Having many women is like diversifying a stock portfolio. First, you should be intelligent about it and not simply gamble. Then, while your seduction skills develop in market value, your diverse portfolio will feed you more stable long-term gains than if you had invested in just one stock. The variable of return that you measure with women is whatever you decide it to be. But one essential skill for any seducer in drama resolution, or is drama resolution. And here's what Arash said about it. Sutra 9. Don't wait for your first drama to be something you care about. Choose a good one for your first one, something you don't care about. Commentary. Observe and then train your woman's response to drama so that it drives with you. Drama is natural for women. Don't try to extinguish it. But you can be a supreme source of resolution for her mind and her emotions if you as a man have immaculate drama resolution skills. Refer to Sutra 8. Be a social master, then teach your women how to master communication with you. This is the IMC method. They must trust you to teach them how they are to behave socially with you. Refer to Sutra 38 later. And then he said, her methods of drama resolution when you meet her are usually reflections of whatever methods worked for her in her past relationships with men, going back as far as her relationship with her father. Commentary. Decide if she's worth it to you. If she is, then have the patience of a loving father with her while you teach her how to resolve drama with you. You will clarify more and more your standards with women the more you intimately interact with many of them on many different levels of relationship, all the way from strangers to long-term pair bonds. The more you mix it up with the feminine, higher your self-esteem will be, thus the higher your standards will become. Your many options of mates will express itself through your behavior. You will not tolerate her drama, which will actually help her to comply with you. Chapter 4, Seventh Veil. We went to Crazy Girls Friday night, but gangster activity caused them to close, so we walked around the corner to Seventh Veil. We gave some love to the doorman and entered the club, and then took our seats in the back corner facing the entrance. Arash immediately pointed out to me his target, his primary pick of the club. She was one of the stunning ones. He then demonstrated to me how to walk up to the stage and toss ones at the stripper in a way that drew the attention of his target. He came back and sat down. Then he described to me how he had walked to and from the stage. He described the flick of his wrist, the look over his shoulder, his vibe, his purpose. His moves, meaning his game techniques, were to demonstrate his personality to his target in two ways. First, by interacting with the environment in an alpha way, and second, by providing survival to her female coworker in the form of a wad of ones tossed on her body. While he explained all this to me, the club music was very loud, but I remember easily feeling my deep inner realization. I bought dances from a very direct girl, but I didn't fuck her even though she offered. My purpose goes beyond sexing a hoe. She represents female form, energy, motive. Her seduction clarifies where I'm behaving masculine and where I'm behaving feminine. I aim to cultivate more opposite mating gestures because opposites make stronger magnets. She tests my skill and I grow from her destruction of my skill. To control her mind, I need skill and control over my senses. And I sharpen my awareness so that when she captures it through her seduction, I pierce deeply into her game. Arash number closed his target, and two of her stunning friends. Then they prepared to get off work so they could come meet us at the W. It was about 1 a.m., and they had planned to work until 5. So to them, hanging out with Arash, who they just met, needed to represent more value than 4 more hours of working at 7th Fail on a Friday night. Chapter 5, Comfort at the W. We all 3 returned to the W and sat on the central oval couch in front of the main check-in. Many rappers and rich travelers had come for the All-Star basketball weekend. Arash and Brian bought a suite for casual use, but I could use it also. As they sat and vibed with the environment, I conversed with a beautiful woman, the kind of woman who felt soft to speak with, whose glossy lips kept my attention on her face, which helped me notice many of her facial communications. This one benefit of makeup, that it keeps a man's attention on her face, means he can see where most of her communication happens. I then wondered what her naked body looked like. After a few minutes, I introduced her to Brian and Arash, and a few minutes later, Arash invited her and us up to the suite. I'm amazed that she came with us, 3 guys that she just met, but she did. We're all spellbinders, you know. With each thought or word spoken, we spell. Upstairs, their conversation amazed me. I highly recommend you listen to Sex Sutra Track 2 that comes with this product. Though below I'll give a brief recap. Arash once texted me, quote, "One never says he then got a blowjob, but one does say, quote, she stayed and hinted at being more than willing to comply with anything that would please him." In the hotel room, during conversation, Arash says something funny to Jenny. I laugh, and he turns to me while smiling and mumbles, "I understand, but you're still here, so..." To inform me why he was looking at me, what was happening, and to put my awareness on my antisocial behavior. Please realize it's quite challenging to fully build comfort in a seductive way in front of your homies, alone in a hotel room, with a pretty woman who you just met, while teaching your friends what you're doing at the same time. Maybe his ability to multi-thread communication has developed during his decade of multiple girlfriends. Even his corrections to me feel comfortable, or maybe I just know what it takes to be the best at something, so I accept corrections from my chosen master as if they spawned from pure love. Track 2 of this comfort-building phase is invaluable. So many innuendos, so much wordplay with body part names and gender roles. As she invested more into the conversation, Arash would invest less. He seemed to be adding an air of tension or frustration or anticipation in the air. That tension, that feeling of playfully resisting connection with her left a really strong impression on me, and my behavior with women has changed forever. It's led to a lot of success, and I get what I want, but by focusing on the feeling of tension or release of tension between her and I during the conversation, rather than trying to logically tell her what to do. Jenny told us that no interaction stood out to her that night before we had arrived. That when we arrived, she especially noticed we were white or Armenian, an emotionally black crowd. When the topic of makeup came up, he said, "Makeup is there to make us look prettier. Why else put it on?" Sutra 10. In what way are women beautiful that men are not? Commentary. This question causes the mind to polarize gender, which makes male-female relationships more magnetized. Whatever words she uses to answer that question, Sutra 10, I will use to persuade her to wear makeup if she's worth it to me. Thus, she'll keep my attention longer, which will only help us to communicate longer. On femininity in Track 2, Arash perfectly words the question, what do you like to cook? And he gives some strong and commanding frames like, be what a woman is, pretty, soft, elegant. At one point, Arash says, Sutra 11, your book is being written right outside of the regular human experience. Commentary. Who would read your book? Would you read the book of your own life? Right now, in this moment, is the story you're writing with your actions, words, deeds, thoughts, beingness, is it worth reading? Make it so. One datum is to notice where your experience of living is different from others. Then write about it or talk about it. Speak your uniqueness more into reality. During comfort building, Arash's communication had zero resistance to her, and everything she said, and even he even spoke with a rhythmic melody similar to Shakespearean iambic pentameter. Short sentences to the point, and how they sounded mattered. His communication cut through the bush rather than beating around the bush, and his sound was very pleasant. For example, he said, "I had Popeyes today on the way over here," which is a simple sentence, but tries to say it any other way. For example, "On the way over here, I had Popeyes." The second way changes the sound quality, how you combine the sounds that we call speech, and it puts your attention on Popeyes rather than on the concluding word of Arash's sentence, which was the word here, as in the present moment. As someone who studies phonetics, I can say Arash's speech is very smooth coordination of vowels, consonants, enunciation, and breathing. Plus, he smiles a lot. His speech is very seductive. This is why my girlfriend studies me, not Arash. At one point, Jenny showed signs of exhaustion. After all, it was about 2:30 a.m. Arash then pretended to be so tired that Jenny picked him up with her own energy and enthusiasm. He was controlling both sides of her polarity, the tired side and the energized side, and he pre-handled her complaint about how late it was or how tired she might be by becoming tired himself. I saw him drop his thread so fast, I could barely follow him in order to talk about exactly what she wanted to talk about. He delivered his new thread on her topic with comfortable speed and tone, but then at other times he would not drop his thread, and she would stop speaking just to listen to him. The balance between when to drop your thread and pick up hers and when to persist with a smile and good energy is part of the invisible code of Zepar's behavior. He would frequently leave pockets of silence and wait to find out if she would re-engage in the conversation. I learned so much from observing this and the energetic feeling of it, like how it feels to walk a pit bull on a short but loose leash. It was potent and tingly. My takeaway was to let her talk more, whoever she is, but pay attention to her and where her attention goes in the conversation, and keep her attention on the topics that I can use to highlight my value. The more social you become, the more topics you can use as demonstrations of your value. But let her talk more in the beginning. Her words, not your awesomeness, are the keys to unlocking her mind. Arash would answer her questions with his own questions, as in when she said, "When's your birthday?" he replied, "When do you think it is?" In every single moment, he led the frame, which is much more than just the words he used to reply with. Leading is a vibe. He led the linguistics, the volume, the rhythm, the topic, the speech, and even the beliefs that were talked about. He never needed to know her name for any of this. That said, he did not micromanage her, meaning it's easy to nitpick everything the woman says or does. Instead, what Arash did was place his attention on her compliance to him and her mental adaptation to him. From that information, he calibrated his gestures, body, voice, words, to guide her attitude to wherever he wanted. I noticed once Arash said to Jenny, Marilyn Monroe said, "If you can make a girl laugh, you can make her come 10 times." I laughed, then I realized the persuasion techniques embedded in his statement. First, by thinking of Marilyn Monroe, you wake up your imagination mind, called vikalpa in yoga science. Imagination mind is easier to persuade and seduce because it's more enjoyable than mundane mind. Second, he used the outside reference, in this example Marilyn, to embed a sexual statement. An outside reference is always more persuasive than just saying the statement yourself. The statement was "come 10 times," but it's plausibly deniable, and it's not overly sexual because Marilyn said it. He was just quoting her. He used this technique downstairs too at the W with the cutie when he said to her, "Are you a spy? Are you out of one of those 007 movies? Is your name Vagina Malzalot? While laughing. An incredible gambit, if you could even call it that. Are you a spy? Quickly engages and opens her imagination mind, where he can acceptably implant Vagina Malzalot into her mind. The word vagina now has entered her mind to the sound of his voice, and he has plausible deniability. Very inceptive. I noticed when he bantered questions back and forth during a fantasy roleplay. What I mean is they playfully and in a teasing way questioned each other's fantasy reality. He kept tossing questions back at her questions. It was a frame game. The one who keeps the playful questions going back and forth longer wins. During roleplay, adapt your words so you are always winning the frame. This is very enticing to the woman because she's very good at nullifying a man's winning frame. He who has more fun with the frame game wins, not he who outlogics the other person. In the room, nearing the end of comfort phase between Arash and Jenny, and before sexual seduction might begin, where Brian and I left her alone with Arash, he read to us and Jenny his text to the strippers from earlier, who were probably in the process of flaking. It was now about 3 a.m., and he said to them, "How about you guys forget about it?" What strippers read that kind of text from a guy they just met? It was a high-value move indeed, and they have a good chance of remembering him the next time he comes to Seventh Veil. I recall Arash's sentence from earlier that night. Sutra 12. My game isn't tonight. My game was 6 months ago. While Jenny was in the bathroom, us three guys communicated in code to plan our exit strategy. That wouldn't be too obvious that we were giving Arash and Jenny alone time. We decided to say that we were going to get something from Brian's Lamborghini. Jenny came out of the bathroom, and before Brian and I spoke our exit statement, Arash clearly said to all of us to hear. Sutra 13. The female energy has no commitment to the earlier project. I treat each interaction for what it is, and then, in the end, it just has to be provided properly. It's so out of the ordinary, and it's so smooth that when it happens, don't blink. Jenny moistened at his words. Arash is supremely feminine and will drop a new female for the next female without a second's notice or hesitation, and she felt that in the moment. It reminded me of a saying in handstand training that goes, hours of training for moments of success. Ask yourself if the success of a good seduction is worth all the time it requires of you. Distinguish your relationship with the feminine energy from your relationship with any individual female. How you treat the feminine will determine your success in this game much more than your relationship with any particular female. After about an hour in the room, Brian and I left, and we drove around Hollywood in his Lambo. Then he dropped me back off at the W and went home. I went back up to the suite at about 4 a.m. after Arash and Jenny had left. But my 5-hour energy kept me up until 5. So from 4 to 5, I practiced yoga breathing called pranayama. Pranayama is unspeakably good for you between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m. Your life will forever improve if you practice pranayama anytime, day or night, but 3 to 5 a.m. is best. You will never once ever regret practicing yoga breathing any time of day. Not once. It's so good for your mind and your emotions that you will cherish every moment of yoga breathing that you ever partake in. But probably not as much as I did in that hotel room from 4 to 5 that night. Chapter 6. Breaking down my game. The next day I'm talking with Arash about the previous night. I said to him that when yesterday Jenny had called me, quote, natural, I thought she was alluding to my body odor. Telling Arash this opened my awareness to my body odor insecurity. Then Arash told me to find out what she means when she calls me natural. That he felt she meant good and positive connotations, and when a woman uses even a slightly odd word to describe you, to inquire a bit further as to what she really means. So I learned that as I put my awareness on her unique language to describe me, I tune into her unique mind code, given by the words she labels her reality and perceptions with. Her words clue me into what she precisely likes or dislikes about me, so then I can accentuate or mute those qualities. Kind of like dials on a mixing board of my persona. Her words are the keys to her mind. He said, the next big chunk for me is my delivery. To learn to deliver it in a way that makes me seem cool. He said, how do you want to sound and move as a traveling yogi? You have to practice how you want to sound and move. You want to bring up the cool factor. You just have to learn how to sound cool. Look cool, sound cool, then you're very cool. Sutra 14. I'm testing the woman to see how much she really wants it. Commentary. Her attraction can be measured by how compliant she is with my lead in both my touch and my conversation. Later, he said, Sutra 15, where I was exerting the effort was making me weaker as a man. Commentary. In Sex Sutras Lecture 2, Arash goes very deep into this sutra. When he said this in the hotel, though, he continued with, quote, I don't really go along with them, then they kind of shut down a little bit sometimes. They don't have enough push through to get the goal done, even if they want it. For example, I might say, I don't know if we're going to be together. What if it's too much effort? Commentary. I have used that soundbite above several times in the weeks since the event with very good results. Rather than stressing to keep the relationship or to grow it, I admit to the woman that it's too much effort, and I shine light on my weakness that I was attempting to hide through my effort in the relationship. After admitting my weakness every time, she begins to push in and pick up the slack on her side of the relationship or the conversation. In alchemy, this is the application of the pendulum, meaning use the law of gender, which defines two opposites, with the law of polarity, which defines a spectrum between them. Then add the law of rhythm, which defines the flow back and forth between the poles. Arash's above concession technique jumps him to the other side of the swinging pendulum and pushes it back the other way. By pulling, meaning by stopping your effort forward, she will sway back and push into the relationship with her effort just a little bit more. I stop pushing and pulling so that she stops pulling and starts to push again. Chapter 7, How to Walk Cool. He noticed I'd left condoms around the room, as I was accustomed to doing because, of course, to search for condoms during seduction sometimes kills the sexual vibe. But then he said, leaving condoms out for your girlfriend to see is tactless, which was good for me to hear because I'm learning distinctions between my behavior towards my girlfriend and everyone else. I liked this datum. Then we went into the hallway where he showed me 3 different ways to walk. The first was a tight gait, common among men. The second was a loose and comfortable stride. But the third was seductive, rhythmic, carefree, loose in the hips especially, slow like a tiger or lion who wasn't hunting how they might walk. And he had a big smile behind his face. Arash emphasized to walk as if I was dancing, as if hearing music. He said, hear music in your head as you walk, even if it's Indian flutes in your mind. Chapter 8. Picking up 2 beauties by the bar. Downstairs we walked through the hotel to the bar restaurant, where he told me that I must communicate to women that I get you guys, I get your world. He said, Sutra 16. You must gather information through conversation to seduce the woman. We saw 2 black beauties sitting at the bar. Soon as we noticed them, he said to me, my seduction has already started. Approaching them neither aggressive or uncertain, Arash directly took his seat beside them and opened the conversation with some urban black tone. The European bartender kept talking with us, so I occupied him while Arash hooked the girls with his charm. Within minutes, he'd swooned them After 5 minutes, he moved the far girl's chair around so she sat between him and I at the bar. As much as possible, I tried to listen to his conversation while I talked with the girl next to me. At some point, I even told her that actually I was listening more to Arash speak and that I practiced seductive tonality, at which point my voice became very seductive. Abracadabra. And I noticed very positive effects in her body language. Most of my audio is removed from this Sex Sutra track because of the stark contrast in my delivery and Arash's. By myself I sound great, but juxtaposed with Arash I feel black and white compared to a 3D movie. My girl and I exchanged numbers, and Arash recorded a face-to-face smiley, laughing Instagram story with his girl. Then we left and took our drinks with us up to the room where the Mindset of Mastery event would take place. Sutra 17. A sweet girl will be taken advantage of by other people. Chapter 9. In the room before Vince arrives. Sutra 18. I can change your opinion of a person before you meet them. Commentary. This sutra points to the power of words in shaping your perceptions of something before you experience it. The power of suggestion. Sutra 19. Never suppose somebody based on opinion. Commentary. Words matter, and the word suppose means to assume something on the basis of evidence or probability, but not with proof or certainty. Or another more ancient definition is to believe to be true. Or even further back to the early 13th century French, where it meant to place. To suppose someone as a phrase means to place your belief as a representation of that person, their character or identity. A harsher word for this is prejudice. Supposing is dangerous to the seducer. Simply be testing her, as in Sutra 14. To know somebody rather than to suppose somebody, deploy communication. Communication will clarify who the person actually is. You don't need to guess who they are. If they're worth it to you, just have them talk more with you and apply no resistance, which is Sutra 2. Sutra 20. Have the most sincere and most genuine interaction you can possibly have with that girl or that thing or that knowledge. Sutra 21. The water goes around or even over the rock going downhill. It doesn't go, fuck, I hit a rock. Its shape is whatever it is. Commentary. Many sages and poets throughout history have used water to represent the human condition. Arash is here saying that you, as the seducer, could take a lesson from water when it comes to how to handle obstacles in your mind and the ones in the real world. Arash then said, when I face a woman, I start not existing because that's the only way I can get her. That's the only way I can get her. If I'm not there, I can listen. It sounds easy, but it's not. Then I need return flow that she's interested in me or she's using me. Arash has taught me many times to dissolve or in order to listen. Every time I get it more and more. To understand her feelings requires empathy. Empathy is bottomless within everyone if you can forget your ego. Without ego, you can purely experience her experience. The trick then is to not be distracted by her beauty, meaning don't be controlled by your physical senses. A beautiful woman can be the ultimate sharpening tool for a man's control of his senses and his awareness and his concentration. Control your senses is called pratyahara. Pratyahara is needed in order to dissolve your ego. By dissolving his ego, I have seen Arash control other people's voluntary and involuntary nervous systems using his communication. It's complex to describe, but if you ever witness him persuade a person's sweat reflex, or their heart pulse, or their emotional state, or their orgasm reflex, and so very easily their respiratory system, using only sounds, words, gestures, and without touching them physically, And furthermore, while they're distracted and excited in social settings, well, let's just say I'm smart enough to see a lot of value in that. It's magical, it's extraordinary to see him control their systems with words in a social setting and without them volunteering for it. I am myself beginning to create these effects in people, so it must be a skill that can be learned. The IMC method is the system to learning the skill. Continuing, while still in the room, Arash said, Sutra 22. Alexander the Great thought he couldn't die because his mother told him his father was Zeus. Commentary. Our self-talk determines our sense of personal power. Not the stories we consciously, as much as the autopilot stories we unconsciously play on repeat in the background of our minds. Our silent stories matter greatly in our lives. Every thought matters. Arash then told an exotic and wholly fabricated story about his birth and how the lights had flickered in the hospital and a black pearl was found in his mouth or some shit. And I was laughing on the inside. And the stripper he brought to the Mindset Mastery event, whom he'd met 3 months earlier, let's call her Jenny, she bought his story. And the guys did too. His point was that the stories we tell ourselves influence our delivery and the effect we make. We all bought his fantasy, and he delivered it fantastically with certainty, confidence, and it sounded true. He explained all this to us, and then he said, if she flakes, of course it happened for me. Thanks, Dad, referring to Zeus. She was probably going to rob me, poison me, or something. The underwritten story here is the following. Sutra 23. Everything happens for me, not to me. Chapter 10. Setting the frame. 6 p.m. Saturday. Arash solicited someone to pay him for private attention and lessons out in the field that night. If so, they were to set it up with me and I could come along too. Drew stepped up with his desire, and I named the price. In hindsight, I greatly underpriced it. Sex Sutras tracks 6 to 10 are what I captured from Drew's one-on-one. Below is a recap of many of the night's events. We broke for dinner at 6, then Drew and I met again at 7:30 in the lobby and went up to the room. I began to describe to Drew some of my one-on-one experiences with Arash. That led me to understand his teaching process. In the room, Arash said to Drew, your one-on-one experience is guided by what you want to see. You don't get to have, you get to see it. For example, to witness a 10 come home with us is not the same thing as you getting a 10, but you will see how getting a 10 is done. You pay for the third-person experience of whatever you desire in seduction, given by Zepar through Arash Dibazar. Then Arash helped Drew clarify his goals for the night. He said, don't insist on an outcome too much. In yoga, any good practice combines elements of ease with effort. On our way to the elevators, Arash said we were too stiff in our walk. Then he tossed his wet cough drop on the floor to check my internal frame, he said. Meaning, how did he respond to his throwing a wet cough drop on the floor, a gesture which most people would find appalling? He was checking his own frame, his autopilot response. Your initial response is vital clue to your true state of mind. Arash was checking his frame of being a badass who doesn't give a shit, which is not everyone's frame. Be aware also that frames change. Nothing is solid in the mind. One flexible frame to entertain is, let's see. I begin to notice, now doubly so as I've studied the audio recordings for the weekend, that in every moment Arash seems to be seducing, actively. His facade changes with each social setting, but he's always gesturing or communicating in some way to create a seductive effect of leadership, comfort, pleasure, freedom, and more. I know this is true because I know so many of Arash's moves and gestures, speech patterns and gambits. Hundreds of hours of video I've studied, plus dozens of hours privately. So rarely has Arash repeated a lesson. Few have studied so much of Arash's architecture that now I have a foremost lexicon on the Arash Dibazar method. Every action and gesture I see from him is intended to seduce who may be watching. Whether they are is not the point. More and more, layers of communication become obvious in his pickup and his seduction and his sales and his life. And yet I'm still so frequently surprised by the unpredictability in his movement. Of course, unpredictability would mean more effect is created. That is actually the definition of information, according to information theory, just so you know. So some people define information as the difference that makes a difference. And almost every gesture and word from Arash makes a difference. Downstairs, Arash socially merged a couple millionaires, one of whom is a top guy in the hotel promotion business. That guy told me stories I can't repeat here. But then Arash said how he would, Sutra 24, shoot out the spider web as I go out and connect with everything in my environment. Commentary. This is an alpha quality that's necessary for Sutra 43 later on. Sutra 25. It's a jungle. We're in the context of mating here. Meeting. I have to demonstrate that I am top mating potential. How one demonstrates top mating potential is the Arash Dibazar method, based on the science of attraction, comfort, and seduction as outlined by Mystery. Arash is a student of Mystery in Matador, who is another one of Mystery's proteges. Claim to lineage and superiority is what attracted me to Arash's teaching in the beginning. Drew had requested to see how to take a girl from a guy. Then Arash noticed two rich Arabian men sitting with very beautiful-looking women, and he showed us how to enter their space, ask a question directed at the guy, disregard the woman, then back out and return to our group. He explained this to us immediately after doing so, and minutes later we sat next to him on the long sofa on the outside part of the W. Arash has great volume control. He speaks very clearly in noisy environments. So loudly, he said, 99% of the animals, meaning people, here are faking. They're weak. They may have a lot of resources, but they're lacking heart. He was talking about the wealthy folks. The drop-dead, stunning girl nearest Arash sat on her very muscular and tall Arabian man's lap. It was clear that her ears were on Arash, even though her lap was on her man. At some point, he told the girl and guy that we were probably going to go to the strip club after this. After a few minutes of Drew, Arash, and I talking, out of nowhere, the Arabian guy buys us drinks. I was surprised. With the girl between them listening, Arash began to tell him how I was a, quote, traveling yogi, travels the world, teaching a kind of yoga called Ninth Limb. Where's the next place you traveled to? He asked me. I replied, Albuquerque. Next time I'll have a better answer. After our shots, they left us. Later, Arash broke down the interaction, which I'll briefly recount here. Arash, explaining the perspective of the Arabian man's girl he was seducing, said, she watches him, meaning Arash, enter the conversation. He, the Arabian, answers. I take up the side of them. She's hearing me and listening, and her ear is on me. Then her guy buys all of us drinks. His girlfriend is thinking, why? Why did you buy them a shot? He hasn't done shit, but he looks dangerous. He looks comfortable. He did enter our own space. Are you buying off danger? Is he stronger than you? And he's not even reacting to me, which means he's probably stronger than my boyfriend because my boyfriend reacts to me. The Arabian owned a logistics company. They left after the shot. Sutra 26. Volume control over your voice is essential for game. Chapter 11. Role play. After the Arabians left, another group of 5 girls came and sat next to us. Arash every so often would toss a comment at them with a smile. After 3 to 4 comments, he'd opened them to his conversation. They were French, and with the prettiest girl, he began to role play about eating fromage, which means cheese in French. He kept saying to her, "We're going to eat fromage and kiss," in various different ways, over and over as part of a joke that they had as a conspiracy together. Somehow the punchline of every joke was, "And then we'll eat fromage and kiss." He was testing her response to the idea of kissing while he planted that thought in her head. As long as she responded positively, as in laughing, to his joke about kissing, it makes it easier later for her to kiss him. Arash communicates with almost feminine hand gestures, tone inflections, and short replies. Subconsciously, his emotional expression would indicate to any woman that he must hang around with lots of women, and he's mirroring their communication styles. Later, he asked the pretty French girl, "Are you a Scorpio?" which seemed linguistically like a chess move, played by a player prepared for any response. When she said, "No, I'm an Aquarius," he began to give her an Aquarius star sign reading, which I won't transcribe here, so check out the audio if you get this product in time. When she corrected him, he went into all the reasons why it made sense why she was an Aquarius. Each statement he smiled and confidently calibrated, backpedaled, or moved deeper into his analysis based on her subtle facial movements and emotional responses. Her mind was captured, but all her friends, only one of which was pretty, wanted to move locations. I personally would have exchanged numbers with her if I were Arash, and I could tell she wanted to, but Arash didn't suggest it, and so she got up with her friends and kept her back to him the rest of the evening, which of course is a submissive body communication. I noticed occasionally she would look back at him. The next group sat down next to us and included a very pretty 22-year-old in red shorts. It turned out to be her birthday, and Arash seamlessly transitioned into a role play worthy of Broadway. Remember, Arash is a professionally trained actor by the late, great Manu Tupou. I was so entranced by his spontaneity, I highly recommend you listen to the audio. He improvised an entire 10-year relationship with her, starting with how she was mad at him somehow for not protecting her from another man at this venue, and then they got into a fight, and somehow a knife was involved, and he went to prison, and when he came out, they both had changed, and now he was gay, but she still had love for him, and they had a kid together, or some weird shit like that. When he was finished, my jaw was dropped, and all I could say was, wow. She, however, was paralyzed. So I don't think she registered his story. Maybe she was drunk. I was forever impressed by it, and since then my roleplay abilities, which include flirting, dreaming, goal setting, has enhanced immeasurably, and my success with women have gone up. Remember, your game can only really be measured by your success with women, and nothing else, which is why Arash is #1 in the world. It's very simple, and remember that in humans, male seduction of the female is a skill that can only be learned. We're not born with it. Therefore, each man has the responsibility to learn to apply game. Arash told us that he has systematically made his hometown his playing ground. Sutra 27. My game was not tonight. It was 6 months ago. Then he said, you guys are missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is your life, and created in a way that you have possibilities. Commentary. Game is consciously affecting another person's subconscious for the purpose of mating and seduction. The more environments you can do this in, the better and more adaptable your game will be. Autopilot responses to communication are written in the code of human genetic and nervous and behavioral systems. One only needs to hack into the genetic code and the nervous system code and the human belief system code to navigate the matrix of social and mating strategies. This is the IMC method. We are the new Illuminati. We crack the codes of these systems and apply pressure to their weakest points. Eventually, people will become desensitized to certain weak points as their systems evolve. The IMC seductive instinct method, therefore, is actually pushing forward evolution of the human male-female mating game. This pushing forward is called the Red Queen effect, and Arash is at the very front of it. I noticed in Arash's game many excuses to move, to touch, to be loud. These excuses are called plausible deniability. He uses plausible deniability to make the environment and the people in it comfortable with him. I began to use plausibly deniable movements in my communication with Drew right then and there. And since that night, I have leveled up in my awareness of plausible deniability. Now I see that a lot of times any awkwardness with the girl is simply that I'm not moving enough, or I haven't justified my movement in a way that occupies her conscious mind while conditioning her unconscious mind to feel comfortable with my touch, my gestures, or my speech. I was becoming even more aware of the differences between Arash's delivery and my own. I can now mirror many of his communications simply by having been in his presence while he displayed them. I must learn to smile more and lecture girls less. Changing my delivery has been most positively impacted by my in-person time with Arash. He would frequently wave to people who weren't there. To an alien watching him, they might at first say to themselves, "Who the fuck is this person waving to?" No one is the answer. Even I sometimes said to myself, "Who the fuck did he just wave to?" Then I'd recall, "Oh, it's a move he's doing." He would just sell it so believably and so casually. Between conversations or even during conversation with someone, occasionally I now look to a distant location in the venue, smile, and wave as if waving to a pretty girl that was an old friend of mine. Then I turn back to my conversation or point of focus if I were alone. The gesture takes half a second, but it leaves a lasting impression on the room. To an alien, it would logically appear as if Arash were hacking into the social matrix and creating an effect where there wasn't one. He turns a private lie into a public truth. The lie is that this man is socially connected here to a non-existent person he's waving to. The truth is that other people feel more comfortable around this man because they believe he is socially connected here. To justify this little lie, understand that her feelings and comfort are senior to my factual truths, always, because even if I'm right, her feelings might cause her to leave me. And even if I'm wrong, her feelings might be the cause of her to stay with me. Therefore, wave to imaginary people and create deeper comfort with people around you based on the truth of their feelings. Then he said to the girls next to us, quote, "I'm a woman inside," not the way of binary, not binary kind of weirdness. What I mean by that is that I understand the woman so well that I truly, on my mother's life, who's very important to me, and my grandmother's who passed away, God bless her soul, I truly believe that I know the woman better than she knows herself. Later, he said to us, quote, "You're going to have to go back and question all your social interactions." Commentary. I know that has always been the process of learning from Arash. Sutra 28. Don't question what's going to happen because you know it's going to happen. Commentary. Behave internally as if you had already achieved your outcome. This will attract your outcome to you. With a deep, easy voice, he said to her, quote, "So what would make your birthday perfect? Don't hold back. I have that power." Commentary. Phonetically and linguistically, I noticed the beauty in his syllable combinations that spelled his communication. Notice the contrast between his spelling and the more common and usual, "So what do you want for your birthday?" Or, "So what do you want to do for your birthday?" Arash's sentences didn't end on the word birthday, which has so many connotations for people, but rather he ends on the words perfect and power, not to mention that how he says it can't be fully captured in writing. For example, he says to an anxious girl later standing near us, "This is like a place to rest." The dots in the prose pause the beat as you read, so you must realize that when he speaks, the pauses are very smooth. During his smooth hypnotic pauses, his breath is controlling the pause, not his glottis. You can find what a glottal stop is under the subject of phonetics. Arash speaks in a way that continues to comfort the anxious girl down by agreeing with her with genuine smiles over and over. No resistance. He sounded genuine. Later, he proclaimed, quote, "So much of it is right now. The nows, the moments of now that are taking place are incredibly important." He said this while laying on his side, head away from the group of girls, while he scooted a little closer to them. He even grazed his butt on the cute girl next to him. He continued with, You don't just go like this, meaning his body position, unless you're incredibly comfortable and it's being accepted. And the fact that you don't feel, because it's invisible, how many times we're bumping into each other. And then I'm the first to break contact. And then I have an excuse to get closer. He said this while he backed into her personal space to adjust the sofa cushions which had been sliding out from under us. To put it another way, he was teaching us game while gaming the girl. No, the group of girls. No, the entire room. We just met the whole room, and he was gaming them all while he taught us game. His behavior was so tasteful and different from everyone at the W that everyone within 3 degrees of separation could feel him in the air. Yet he did nothing to violate anyone, from the girl his butt was bumping into, to the manager whose couch he was laying across, to the girl's friends or us who were watching him indirectly flirt with her, to the sets of people that had migrated into proximity with us who were definitely penetrated by Arash's voice and delivery. He was teaching us game while seducing the room. Words can't fully describe his body postures or the depth of his social acuity. You just must simply see it for yourself in person. Later he said, Sutra 29, in the beginning, the targets are the guys. Commentary. In Sex Sutras Lecture 2, Arash goes very deep into this sutra. Earlier in the night, Arash had shaken the hand of the hotel promoter with both his hands and bowed his head to the guy. He had then turned and said to me, quote, that was a move. Watch out when I do that, because I don't always do that. Commentary. It was like a hunter bowing to a lion as a courteous display of submission. Meanwhile, Arash seduced everyone around him, which created a huge contrast and caused people to question which person really had higher value. Chapter 12. Recap. We went up to the room to charge our phones. Casually, he said to us, Sutra 30. Create a fantasy for the whole set. Commentary. Tremendous value comes from when you witness in person how Arash interacts with people. It's not so much him as much as it is his marvelous effect on people. If you don't think so, then you go and try to do it. And accumulate 4 stunning girlfriends who know what you're doing with other women while you're at it, and then keep them for years. You'll discover soon that Arash is doing what no other man is. Even the closest are very far away. About the night before, he simply said, quote, the more I talked, the more they become mine, referring to the group of 6 he'd hooked into conversation. Then he said, with every sentence said, I'm gaining more information to get them. No matter what they say, I can use that to get them. That's why my women don't talk to other men. Because I know if a woman talks to me, then I have a chance. And that's why my woman does not talk to any other men. Then he said, we think we have more leverage than we do. That's where we fuck up. You asked for too much too fast. Drew asked what he meant by leverage. He replied, leverage means something that they want that I control. I'm the source of something they want. That gives me leverage. Something to move them. Whatever it's called that makes people want to be around me, that makes them better. That's my leverage. I can't sell it till I know what it is. Sutra 31. I want leverage in my relationships. Commentary. I say to Arash in that moment that when he's describing, what he's describing seems like verbal jujitsu to me. Leveraging her mind with my mind. And that Arash is the only one in the world that can teach me what I want to know, because he's the only one having the life that I want to have. A near full-time relationship with the feminine to become the ultimate man as determined by who the ultimate women choose. I was curious if he'd fucked Jenny from the night before, but he said, Sutra 32, never fuck the first night or else they could call rape. Then he added, but I'm going to have to get off. Use your hands or her mouth or something. I'm not going to fucking fuck them. I know that. Commentary. Okay, so I used to not follow this axiom, but now I can say with more fame and exposure to the world, some women will definitely use your position to broadcast their cries for attention. Pay attention to their behavior when you escalate physically with them and trust your inner voice. If you're sexually escalating for the first time with a woman, consider waiting. Sex now is not worth the character defamation some women bring if you're famous. Sutra 33. From the outside, I want to look very comfortable, like we've known each other for a long time. Commentary. Put your attention on what your body and your inner body are doing right now. Whomever is around you right now, include them also in a third-person perspective of what you are doing. And if you like, maybe adjust your body position until other people become comfortable around you. When your position and communication trigger comfort in them, then that means you're inside of their nervous and emotional body. Only when you're inside their emotional body is persuasion and leverage possible. Then he said, Sutra 34, only when you have a choice can you practice patience or exercise self-control. Arash told us a story about Bruce Lee. In the story, Bruce was anxious to hear from a Hollywood studio about a movie he wanted to make, and then one day the letter came while he was training at home with his friend. He sat down for a meal with his friend after training first, before he opened the letter. And he said, I had not the choice to open the letter until it came in the mail. Now is my practice. He then opened the letter after the meal, even though his friend wanted him to open it right away because he knew how much Bruce wanted to know the outcome. So in seduction, when the girl replies to your text or call, or she shows up or she sleeps with you or she wants to be your girlfriend or your second or your third, do you react immediately? Do you instantly open the metaphorical letter? Patience means keeping a positive attitude while you wait, whereas non-attachment is freedom from the desire for a future event. Non-attachment means never wait because you desire an outcome. There is no target to wait for. I didn't get in this game to desire nothing, but nature definitely has put me here with a desire for women. Man's desire for women is his impetus to learn game. And game is simply the art of attractive, comfortable, and seductive communication with women. Arash was having a texting jiu-jitsu match with a dime piece from San Jose over the terms of becoming his fifth or sixth girlfriend when he said to us, I can feel the physical sensation of wanting to check the phone for her text. But it's not one-sided because I can consciously do that to her. I don't know if she does it consciously or not, but I will win because I know I'm playing a game. Our phones were charged, so we went downstairs where he taught us how he connected the dots of how his new girlfriend's mind checked his Instagram story with his stripper friend Jenny from earlier, and then texted him about his night, and then asked him to call, and which he said no, that he's in a club, but then she called him anyway, which he couldn't answer because we weren't in the club anymore, and so that wouldn't have been congruent. Soon after, he called her when we were in the club, and she didn't answer, so it was a game, a match, and at least he knew deeper into the high-level strategies, not the fool's mate, and so on. He then said, Sutra 35, to get women really good at socially interacting. Commentary. He continued with, you have to get so good socially that you can see all the violations and you don't do them. You'll get the girl eventually, but then you have to put yourself in social situations. Why? Because that's where the game is played. He then said, the longer I'm in a social situation is networking and mating. I come to LA once per month, but I've already established certain pockets of influence where I'm more local than the local. Refer to Sutra 27. Sutra 36. You're here to design a world so that the 10 can live in it comfortably. And he continued with, architecture your environment because she will eventually end up in your environment. While other guys are doing other things, I'm still in the process of designing my world for the perfect 10. Every day my life fits the life of a 10 better and better and better and better. 5 years from now, it's even better than it is right now. After that, he said, my answer fits her fantasy. My answer does not seek that I'm understood by her. I don't care about that right now. My answer has the purpose of creating her fantasy more aligned with me. And this answer will be different to each girl, and it will all still be true. See Sutra 6. Arash explained to Drew and I how he had shamed his new girlfriend's ex-boyfriend's culture so that he could hijack it. He said something like, he's a nigger, but I'm a sand nigger. I am that, but I'm successful. That's the difference. Shocking though it seemed, he made himself equal to her ex, a minority who had experienced malicious bigotry. But then he distinguished the real attraction that he is succeeding in life without any blame towards others for his starting points. Refer to the Sex Sutra audio tracks for his exact communication on this. Sutra 37. I'm doing nothing else in life but having relationships with women to be the ultimate man. Sutra 38. To be the ultimate man, the ultimate women must choose you. Sutra 39. Whenever I interact with the female energy, I first check my relationship with the feminine before I respond. After that, he said, all I'm doing is having a relationship with the yin energy of the world. From the female perspective, they don't even want us sexually in the beginning. From the female perspective, your weaknesses show quickly. Of course, I'd have ultimate masculine because I'm dealing with the ultimate feminine. Chapter 13, The Ethics of Lying. At some point, he even said, I would kill for her. You don't think I would lie for her? Sutra 40. You had to lie to get to be anything. I am is a complete sentence. We all know adding to I am, such as I am a man, I'm a yogi, I'm a seducer, is surface level. It's a surface level truth, but deeper level lie. Understand the depth in you so that the surface will reveal that it's an illusion projected from your mind. Once you know that all ego is an illusion, you may arrive at the same conclusion I have, which is that we might as well choose the kind of ego we want, which is a lie, but so is anything else I tell myself about myself. So I'm okay with the fact that I chose the best lie of all, the one I wanted. Think like a god. Sutra 41. Do whatever it takes to protect your relationship. I said to Arash, it seems to me that within the context of the relationship, her emotions are senior to my truth. He said, a professional liar is an actor. In pickup, you're an actor. They're lying, and the advantage is to telling a man that lying is bad. That's why they're whooping our ass. They have to earn your truth. Sutra 42. The art is to move her mind with words, gestures, sound waves. Sex Sutras Audio Track 2 is the most profound and obvious example ever recorded of a new seduction. Take a listen when you're done with this book. Chapter 14, Vocal Power. Sunday morning, Arash and I walked to the store. He said, Sutra 43, in my environment, I must speak in a way that provides the space for her to follow. Commentary. Control of your environment. Nothing nearby should be outside your control. In your location, the elements of nature, meaning the objects, the people, and any potential dangers must be under your influence. Your communication should push back obstacles or threats so that you create a large and safe buffer space around you. Sutra 44. As I speak, I listen to the sounds. Commentary. Have keen attention on the quality of your own voice. Bob Korf, korfvoice.com, has an excellent voice training CD that has changed my life, which he calls the speaker's voice method. Also, a good practice is to record yourself, either voice or video, talking about something you enjoy. This is a great way to condition your ears to pay attention to when you sound enthusiastic, and this practice will help you develop inside a deep inner confidence, and your articulation skills will grow. Sutra 45. The first thing I do is calibrate the voice. Then we saw a Rastaman dancing outside the store with headphones on. Arash admired him and said that his dancing was good game. He gave the analogy, walking should be like dancing, and speaking should be like singing a song or reciting a poem. Why would I walk? Why would I talk if I had the ability instead to recite a poem to people? Now, a poem could be simply clear blue sky, green grass. I lay down my yoga mat, sit in the center, and find peace again. That is an answer to how's your day. Someone you do know would give you the time to answer that. Sutra 46. Why speak when I can recite? Commentary. Is the other person with you? Are they able to hear you? Do you have enough of their attention to recite a communication to them and they receive it? Be present is yoga, and certainty is game. Then you must practice delivery. I practice my delivery in every communication. Why so serious? Chapter 15. We walked up the steps of the W Hotel and saw Gorgeous 9 sitting on the huge check-in sofa. As we walked past her, Arash said to her in a slightly joker's voice, recognition. That's what that was. Meaning she had looked at him as if she'd seen him the night before. He then paced her reality, which means say what's happening in the moment, with eloquent and rhythmic speech until a moment later when he told her that we had to get going and suggested that they exchange numbers. She glanced around for a split second, but Arash noticed. So he asked her if she would get in any trouble with someone, such as a boyfriend, if they exchanged numbers. He remained in character of the Joker throughout this. Her slow response to his question said everything, so he rolled off. We walked to the elevators and didn't look back. I could feel her jaw had dropped. I've never seen a walk away so strong. It was such a beautiful girl, so certain. I'm forever changed and I walk away now. In the first free Q&A video for this product, Arash broke down this interaction. One key point he said was that happened again later that day when he saw her by himself was the same thing, and which Sutra 47. I want to watch me live. I feel privileged to watch me live. Sutra 48. I cannot exist. Sutra 49. To seduce her, you must become her fantasy. Sutra 50. If you want to lose the girl, get offended. If you want to keep the girl, never get offended. Chapter 16. The Foothills. Sunday, late afternoon, the Mastery of Mindset event finished. Vince, Arash, and I walked over to lunch. After texting his girlfriend, Arash said, quote, her problem only resolves when you demonstrate that if that issue continues, that you will 100% walk away after providing so much value. Sitting down to eat, he described one of his high-level friends who had just reached a very high level of relationship status with a multi-million follower Instagram girl. She had posted an Instagram incredible praise for her man, Arash's friend. Arash then said to us, he, meaning his friend, has learned to do something that I've done, which is to break into her soul. She's about to have her first relationship. Since when? Since she first had her heart broken, not by a boy, even younger, by her dad. She becomes a virgin. She's born again. But this is where the problem begins now. For her, it's brand new. Now, when she starts talking like this, she's actually talking to our soul, too. If she holds the power when she gives him credit, she could take it away. Commentary. Every woman who interacts with me, she improves. I have designed my communication to be a vehicle of improvement. Yoga, mindset, money, parenting, you name it. If she ever even begins to control or hint at leveraging her praise for me and how I helped her against me, Arash suggested maybe say something like, I tell you what, it sounds like you had it better before. Remind her that you are better than any other option. And when you do, you had better be better than any other option. Sutra 51. 1 ounce of pressure to deflect 1,000 pounds of force. In the jiu-jitsu of communication, less is often more. A gross example of this ancient martial arts principle is by comparing the length of her texts versus your texts. If short texts arouse lengthy replies from the other person over and over, well, this is a telecommunication application of Sutra 51. Communicate with focus and leverage, and remember to smile more. A powerful frame he set in his relationship was to, quote, compare me to others, not to myself when it comes to our relationship. I do want to be judged against others. Don't make me fight myself and my personal growth becomes an issue. This relationship stops now. To go further, I would be compromising the first thing you were attracted to, which was my spiritual integrity and presence. I didn't get you because I was better looking than your boyfriend. None of that. It's risky because she could also leave. How you deliver it is essential. Arash then said, to break up, I literally had to think she will now die because of me. By me disconnecting, she will die very soon. But I don't tolerate that, and there's a reason for that, and that reason is beyond you, meaning the girl. Be uncontrollable when your reason goes beyond the girl. Be endlessly expanding, which means masculine. Vince stepped out to make a call. Arash then demonstrates to me a hypothetical scene of public conflict resolution with one of your women. Instead of, quote, yelling at a woman in a public space, he calls an Uber for her or gives her cash for a taxi to remove herself, saying to her, I want you to be safe. Who could fault him for that? It's the right thing to do. Then he said, she's telling you I want to submit, but you're going to have to really get me or else I'm going to run. He continued with, there's no punishment for going 100% female energy, but if we go 100% male energy, that's caveman. So we go 50% male energy and she beats us. Commentary. Therefore, raise your yin. Sutra 2. Your masculine matches your feminine. Defeat her at feminine, meaning indirect enticement. And then she will willingly submit to your masculine, given that your masculine is stronger than hers. Is it? Chapter 17. Who is this stranger? Arash and I sat by the check-in waiting for both our drivers to come get us. Arash said to me, as if he were me, the guy who's going to change the face of yoga. Cool. Then who is this stranger that you know, meaning Arash? Everybody thinks they know this guy, but I know him. 3 days I stayed in the room. I saw the 3 girls, the breakup, the not eating in front of the homeless as pickup, and why because of that I can get the woman. We win the planet with the knowledge, and it is the new Illuminati. He continued in my voice. Let me introduce you to my friend and my teacher and how I know him. I'll never forget he told me that not eating that hot dog in front of the homeless is one of the keys to getting women. He said if I wasn't with him, he still wouldn't have eaten in front of them because he respects people. If a woman feels that you respect her, you can say a lot of things. Continuing in my voice, he said, then he walks away from the number, and he says, this is simple. You have to learn to walk away. You have to practice. He told me, just like how you, in the middle of the day, you practice your breathing, I will practice walking away. So if I have been attaching all day, then I will walk away. And he said, when I turn away from the homeless people, I am practicing humility and respect, because it is part of my fucking why, because I am a king of kings, a master of masters. That means you must be able to humble yourself, but not in the way they taught you to humble yourself. And he said, all of these things will help you get the woman to become the perfect man. Chapter 18, Claim to Power. And he said, I can make women and men fall in love. Then, mimicking my voice, he said, I can bring a sense of peace or control or calm to a person, no matter who they are. Then he told me to write a book, Intro. I met Arash Dibazar at this time 3 days ago, and for 3 days I experienced this guy's life. The book keeps writing itself every month, he said. Grab more attention of the world. We have one job, bigger and bigger audience. Grab more attention of the world. And then that's money. Just start talking about it. There's no ordinary language. It's only extraordinary. Yoga, always. Teach them about the words and what they mean. It's the language of yoga. The end. If you enjoyed the Sex Sutras free audiobook, please consider sharing it or purchasing the full product at thearashdibazar.com. Namaste.